Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of Career Talks by Envisioneers, Pathways into Governance and Politics Research. For those of you who don't know, the Career Talks series is a series that we're designing mainly for early career researchers and aspiring academics. আজকে আমাদের থার্ড এপিসোড, বাট এর আগের যে দুটো এপিসোড আমাদের হয়েছিল আমরা বেশ কয়েকটা ইস্যু কভার করেছি. We talked about how to navigate interviews. We talked about PhD applications and how to navigate them specifically for social science researchers and specifically for economists, actually. And today's episode, we will focus on pathways into governance and politics research. আমাদের আজকের সেশনের অবজেক্টিভ হচ্ছে গভর্নেন্স এন্ড পলিটিক্স এরিয়াতে রিসার্চ ক্যারিয়ারটাকে আমরা একটু ডিমিস্টিফাই করব. I will kind of provide some practical guidance for students from many different disciplines, but mainly those who are from political science, sociology, anthropology, IR, and other disciplines, other social science disciplines who may be interested in kind of getting into the governance and politics research arena. And আমাদের সাথে আজকে যারা আছেন আমাদের respected speakers, there are very own colleagues from BIGD, specifically from the governance and politics cluster. I will be introducing them very soon, but we'll basically ask them how they got started, what their daily kind of work routine looks like, and what their research interests and passions are about. I think more importantly, I think what everyone's very excited about is that there's an upcoming opportunity to be able to work with these fine individuals today who are our speakers, which is the Governance and Politics Research Fellowship, GPRF program. So সেই program নিয়েও আমরা আজকে কিছুক্ষণ কথা বলবো. What the program looks like, আমরা এটা কেন করছি, এবং kind of tips and tricks to navigate the recruitment process, so to speak. So before we dive into the session and introducing our speakers, I want to mention a few housekeeping rules. I'd like to inform everyone that আমাদের আজকের সেশনটা is being live streamed on the Envisioneers Facebook group. And we're also recording the session. BIGD যে ইউটিউব চ্যানেল আছে সেখানে রেকর্ডিংটা আমরা আপলোড করব within a few days after the session. During the session আমরা হয়তো কিছু স্ক্রিনশটস নিব for our social media channels and our website. So সেটার জন্য আপনাদের কনসেন্ট নিয়ে রাখছি. কেউ যদি আপনাদের পিকচার আপনারা যদি কনসেন্ট না করেন তাহলে we'll request you to keep your video off if you want to opt out of this process. আমাদের জুমের চ্যাট বক্সটা ওপেন থাকবে. আমাদের কারো যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে আমরা সেই চ্যাট বক্সে you can please feel free to add in your questions. We will also, of course, have a question answer session, but you can start adding your questions on the Zoom chat or on the Envisioneers comment box. কারো যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে, you can actually also raise your hands and we'll give you a moment to speak directly to our speakers as well. And last of all, I'd like to request everyone to please be respectful. We want this to be a safe and supportive space for everyone. So without further ado, I want to introduce today's speakers. আমাদের সাথে আছে Syeda Salina Aziz Appa, Fellow of Practice and Head of Governance and Politics Cluster at BIGD. We also have with us Tahrima Binte Tarique, Senior Research Associate, BIGD, and Inteemum Ahsan, Research Associate at BIGD. We're thrilled to have you all here. আমাদের আজকের সেশনটাতে দুটো ভাগ থাকবে. আমরা প্রথমে আমাদের স্পিকারদের সাথে কিছু গল্প করব, আমরা একটু ডিসকাশন করব, তাদের থেকে তাদের ইনসাইটস গুলো নিব, learn a bit about their journey and experiences, and talk a bit about the upcoming GPRF program. And then আমাদের ওয়েবিনার শেষ 15 to 20 minutes we will open the floor for questions. আমরা চেষ্টা করব যে রাত 9টার মধ্যে or earlier if possible we'll close our session today. So before I start the fireside chat, Zarif, can I request you to start our poll? So আমরা একটা ছোট একটা poll করছি just to understand what kind of diversity of the audiences that we have here. Hopefully you can see the poll on the screen. The question is, which of the following best describes you right now? The options are undergraduate student, master's student, recent graduate exploring research careers, already working but still interested in navigating the research career, and interested in applying to the GPRF program. আমরা কিছুক্ষণ সময় নিচ্ছি, maybe 10 seconds more. I can see that, yeah, most people are haven't answered. Around 50% actually already have answered. So we'll wait a few more seconds. Okay. আমার মনে হয় আমরা পোলটা ক্লোজ করে দিতে পারি if there's no further. Okay, I think let's close the poll. Okay. Can we see the results? I think results আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি। So আমাদের এখানে we have a good mix of undergraduate and master's students. We also have a lot of people who are interested in applying to the GPRF program. So we are excited to see you all here. আমাদের GPRF প্রোগ্রামটা আসলে মূলত ফ্রেশারদের জন্যই টার্গেট করা। So hopefully this will be a very useful session for everyone. ওকে, থ্যাংক ইউ এভরিওয়ান ফর পার্টিসিপেটিং ইন দ্য পোল। আমরা তাহলে আমাদের ফায়ারসাইড চ্যাটটা শুরু করছি। প্রথমে আমি আমাদের মোস্ট জুনিয়র মোস্ট স্পিকার এখানে যে আছেন ইন্তিমাম, ইন্তিমামকে একটু রিকোয়েস্ট করব to kind of kickstart the session. So Intimam, the first question I have for you is, what first sparked your interest in governance and politics research, and was there a particular experience or moment that pushed you towards this field? And why I want to start with you is because amader what's interesting in this panel is that সবার academic background কিন্তু quite different. এক একজন এক এক ডিসিপ্লিন থেকে অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমাদের গভর্নেন্স এন্ড পলিটিক্স ফিল্ডে এসেছে, বাট ইন ইন্তিমাম আই আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড দ্যাট ইউ কাম পিওরলি ফ্রম আ পলিটিক্যাল সায়েন্স কাইন্ড অফ ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড. So if you can kind of governance politics aligned at the background. So if you can talk a bit about what drove you into this sector.
Sure, thank you so much. So আমি ইন্তিমাম, আমি BHD তে research associate হিসেবে আছি. My interest in governance and politics kind of started right before I was applying to university for my undergraduate. I grew up in a bunch of different social movements throughout my life, so I've always been affected by social movements, and I've always had these personal questions about social movements. So when I was applying to college, I knew that I wanted to study something along the lines of political science. পরে ইউনিভার্সিটিতে গিয়ে আমি পলিটিক্যাল সায়েন্সের ক্লাস নিলাম, ভালো লাগলো। সোসিওলজি ক্লাস নিলাম, ভালো লাগলো। সোসিওলজি আরেকটা ক্লাস নিলাম, অনেক ভালো লাগলো। So then I decided that I don't want to do just political science. আমি political science, sociology দুইটাই করব. So yeah, that was kind of my gateway into this field. Was kind of my life experiences and also doing political science and sociology double major in college. এরপরে আমি thesis করলাম about social movements, since আমার social movement নিয়ে interest. So thisটা ছিল জর্ডানের Arab uprising এর চ্যাপ্টারটা নিয়ে। আমি Arab uprising এর ভেতর বড় হয়েছিলাম। So I had the chance to do some field research in Jordan. তো আমি ওটা নিয়ে thesis-টা করলাম, and after that, there was a very similar program to GPRF, Young Researchers Fellowship, called like YRF. So that kind of opened up right after I graduated. I mean, graduate করেছি June, YRF opened up in August. So it was very smooth transition. I came back to Bangladesh, I joined, I applied, I got in, and then it was kind of a streamlined process into.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Thank you so much, Intimam. And we'll actually ask you a bit about your experience in the YRF program, because although আমাদের GPRF initiative Tarique to আমরা একটু iterate করেছি from YRF, but your insights would be really helpful. So we'll ask you a few questions about that as well. My second question about, navigating the career in governance and politics research actually would be to Tahrima. So Tahrima, my question to you would be যে আমরা এই কোয়েশ্চেনটা আমাদের রেজিস্ট্রেশন ফর্মেও উই অ্যাকচুয়ালি হ্যাড আ ফিল্ড ওয়্যার উই আস্কড যে কারোর যদি কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন থাকে তারা সেটা জিজ্ঞেস করতে পারবে। সো অনেকে আসলে এটা জিজ্ঞেস করেছে যে আসলে নিজের ইন্টারেস্টটা কি সেটা আমি কিভাবে ফিগার আউট করবো। সো দ্যাটস অলসো মাই কোয়েশ্চেন টু ইউ, সো দ্যাট মেনি ইয়াং রিসার্চার্স অ্যাকচুয়ালি স্ট্রাগল টু ফিগার আউট what their research interest or area of focus is early on in their careers. So if you can shed some light on that, how you came about the journey to discover your own area of interest, and if you have any advice regarding that.
Right. Hi. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tahrima. So research interest it sounds like a much more set in stone thing than it really is. First of all, you can have evolving research interests. So if you're currently a student and you have one kind of a research interest, it doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't predicate your future career, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you will always work in that research interest or in that research area. So it's okay to try different things. So people, I think young people sometimes, and this includes myself as well, that we're afraid to really commit to maybe one specific area of research because we think, we haven't figured it out yet, we don't know yet, but it's okay to kind of venture into it, and then you can decide if you want to move forward with it or not. This is my first piece of advice is to take the pressure out of it. So it's okay to not know what your research interest is yet. And it's okay to still try to figure it out as you go. That's A. B would be to understand that there are no shortcuts, okay? When you're trying to figure out, particularly if you're going to go into academia or if you're going to go into kind of a research organization like BIGD, you need to study, okay? So the best way to develop research interest, to develop opinions on things, is to study, is to learn about things, is to ask questions. And in the process of trying to answer questions that you find interesting about the world around you, especially since we're in political science and in the governance sector, the issues of political science and governance are everyday issues that everybody deals with, right? So your question can be like how Inteemum said, that he was inspired by movements because he grew up with movements. And this is something that Bangladesh deals with as well constantly. So your research interest might be that you want to study mass mobilization or protests. My original interest when I was in my bachelor years, my bachelor thesis was on mass mobilization, on determinants of protests in semi-non-democratic countries like Bangladesh. So, but then, I didn't stick with it. I did it. I wrote my thesis and I was very interested in it. I presented my thesis, and then when I did my master's, I grew to develop other research interests. And this is normal. It's better to not yet, when you're still in your master's, bachelor's, or even in your early career, to not pin yourself down to like, I will only do research on comparative politics, or I will only do research on IR. When you get an opportunity to work, eventually when you finish your thesis and you move on into your professional life, maybe you will find projects that you are in charge of or you are a part of where you are not particularly interested in that field, but there is still a lot to learn from it. Maybe you can learn methodologically from it, conceptually from it. It still feeds into your kind of your portfolio as a researcher, which will only help you in your career, overall, holistically in your career. So it's okay. Don't try to take shortcuts. Focus, study, learn. What are your interests? What kind of questions are you thinking about every day that you think are interesting, that disquiet you and your mind, and it makes you want to ask more questions? Ask the questions, try to answer the questions, and you will eventually stumble into something. And once we move a little bit forward in our careers, you find that overall your career pathway will eventually make sense. For example, I started off with protest like Inteemum did, and then I moved on to policies. So my master's was a lot focused on digital policies and regulatory governance. And then now I'm working on kind of electoral politics and voting behavior, campaigns, that kind of thing. So when you kind of look at it in isolation, and none of it is related to each other, but in the end, it's all in the realm of comparative politics. So take the pressure off, study, ask questions, go read. The more you read, the more you know, the more you will know that there is more to know. So that makes sense. And that will help you develop kind of advantageous kind of niches where you think that, no, I really want to learn more about this. I'm genuinely curious. And that will help you to really build a portfolio for research interests.
Thank you so much, Tahrima. That was really, really helpful, super insightful. And I hope that makes it kind of clear to everyone that your research interest, your passion is something that's going to be ever evolving. And in fact, I think আমি আগেও বলছিলাম যে আমাদের এখানে রিসার্চ ইন্টারেস্ট এতটাই ইভলভ করে, মানুষ অনেক সময় ডিসিপ্লিনও শিফট করে ফেলে, just to kind of maybe they're trained in a particular discipline, but their interest area eventually evolves into another different subject. So that is another question that actually came up in our form as well. So we had a lot of people asking যে যে আমি তো আসলে একটা সায়েন্স সাবজেক্টে ট্রেন্ড, অথবা আই এম সামওয়ান হুজ ফ্রম ইকোনমিক্স ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড, but I am very passionate about governance and politics, and how can I break into this field? And I think Salina Appa would be the perfect person to answer this, because Salina Appa herself is someone who is trained in economics, but is now working extensively in governance and politics research. So my question to you, Appa, would be, how did that transition happen? And what advice would you offer to students from economics or other kind of interdisciplinary backgrounds who are interested in moving into this field?
Thanks, Zarine. আমি যেটা বলতে চাই, it's just so I don't think background really matters that much. It's your passion about research. If you want to be a researcher, if you want to be, because research is a difficult field. It's very unlike other jobs where you have to work 9 to 5. You have set things to do. I'm a desk job. I have to deliver that many, say, contracts. I have to review that many accounts. It's very clear cut when you are in financial sector, when you are in any other job, I would say. Even I have friends who are in teaching, and they have this like, oh, I have to teach, say, 3 classes per semester. I have to do that many hours of teaching. But for research, I think it's beyond that, right? মানে যেটা আমি বলতে চাই যে রিসার্চে what I feel that seeing being myself as a researcher and seeing so many colleagues who are actually coming into the IGD passionate about research, but I felt that researcher hote hole, it's not really discipline. It's about like whether you really want to be a researcher. If you want a research career, then you should be here. Other than that, like if you don't have that kind of passion, like okay, it's sometimes very, you'd feel frustrated যে আমি কি করছি, I'm not doing anything productive, আমি অ্যানালাইসিস করছি, ফিল্ডে যাচ্ছি, খালি মানুষের সাথে কথা বলছি, and not really writing, not immediately publishing. It's very difficult. It's a long process to see your name in a journal article. So ওইটুকু ধৈর্য ধরে নিজেকে প্রিপেয়ার করা to work towards that goal, to pursue, say eventually you have to go for your master's, then your PhD. So it's a long career progression. It's not easy career progression, and I don't think like someone is not disciplined, but if you're not truly interested, if you're not cut for researcher ইয়েতে, তখন you can't really be a researcher. That was এটা I think সবারই মনে রাখা উচিত। আমি জানি যে যেটা আমি আমাদের এই প্রোগ্রামের জন্য বারবার বলছি যে আমরা জানি যে it's important to get a job, it's important for graduates to get a job, but this job is actually different from any other job. So we want people who are actually motivated, who actually want to have a career in research. So ওইভাবে দেখলে, if you really think that you someone, আমি যদিও প্রশ্ন থেকে ডাইগ্রেস করছি, কিন্তু সেখানে আমি আবার ফেরত যেতে চাই। So when I started my career, I was switching, like I wanted to do teaching and I wanted to do research, and I didn't know কোনটা আমি বেশি পছন্দ করি। So I used to, when I joined BIGD, I used to work part-time and I used to teach part-time economics. And একটা semester যাওয়ার পরে I really felt that this is something I wanted to do. Long run আমরা রিসার্চেই থাকতে চাই। এখন research is, I was not always involved in the governance and politics research, right? When I started my career at BIGD, I was placed in the econ cluster. I was doing অনেক বেশি, আমাদের অনেক কিছু সার্ভে ছিল, সার্ভের উপর বেস করে কোয়ান্ট অ্যানালিসিস ছিল। কিন্তু what I felt eventually that যখন আমি সার্ভেগুলো দেখছি, politics was my field of interest. Like we did citizen perception surveys on politics and governance, and we had a very interesting project where we had to work on social accountability. So how can citizens come together and monitor things? How can it's bottom-up social accountability একটা project ছিল আমাদের। তখন I started to work with Mirza Bhai. And I think আমাদের যে senior advisor, Dr. Mirza Ahsan, when I started working with Mirza Bhai with my quantitative training, with my experience with survey data management, and when I actually look into say governance আরো কি কি কাজ possible, তখন it's actually, I think তখনই that shift happened. I knew that I'm not cut for macroeconomic research. I never really liked GDP, GNP, and other kind of like say inflation and adjustment. I really wanted to handle data, but it's very applied micro data. And applied micro data, but not really khali poverty and development. I found like politics. So even if I've shifted from economics to governance and politics, I wouldn't say that it's a shift, it's a methodological shift. Because I'm more interested to work on like the mixed method. I want to look at survey data, more large data set. At the same time, I have developed an insight into qualitative research. So I think it's a transition, right? যে কিভাবে আমরা এক জায়গা থেকে আরেক জায়গায় আসি, মানে I think it can be different for everyone. So yeah, that's my journey.
Thank you so much, Appa. I think the takeaway from this would be যে আসলে নিজে খাটনি না করে, নিজে কাজের মধ্যে না ঢুকলে, নিজের রিসার্চ ইন্টারেস্ট, নিজের মানে ট্রানজিশনস, আমি আসলে কিসে ইন্টারেস্টেড আমি কখনোই জানবো না। You have to kind of engage yourself in, as Tahrima said, reading. অনেক পড়াশোনা করতে হবে, অনেক different resources ঘাটাঘাটি করে দেখতে হবে what your area of interest is, and then actually do the work. So we'll talk about that a bit as well. How can I get involved in the research process itself? What are the different opportunities? At least BIGD পক্ষ থেকে আমরা কি opportunity offer করি সেটা নিয়ে আমরা একটু কথা বলবো, but that's, I would say, kind of the gist of it. Before moving on to the next set of questions, it's already 8:20, so we will not spend too much time. But before that, I want to do another quick poll. Zarif, if you can put up the second poll on the screen. We're basically doing these polls so that সবাই ঘুমায় না যায়. So I know that after iftar সবাই একটু sleepy থাকে, so we just want to pick everyone up. So what interests you most about governance and politics research? So we're keen on seeing what people's ongoing interests are in this field. ওকে, আমরা আর 5 সেকেন্ড সময় নিচ্ছি। আচ্ছা, এখনো আরো অনেকে আনসার করছে, আমরা আরেকটু 5 সেকেন্ড সময় নিই। Okay, I think let's close the poll and share the results. Okay, hopefully we can see the results on the screen. I think because of the contemporary political climate, everyone's really interested about studying political behavior and how people come into decision making, especially because the entire country has gone through a revolution actually, and it's really fascinating how we come to the decisions when it comes to the ballot. So it's great to see that sort of being reflected as well in the poll. I can also see a lot of interest in contributing to policy debates and social impact. So this is really great to see that such a wide variety of interests from our audience today. আমরা তাহলে পোলটা ক্লোজ করছি, আর আমরা আমাদের নেক্সট সেট অফ কোয়েশ্চেন্সে মুভ করছি। আমাদের নেক্সট, এটা will keep it a bit short, but mainly we want to get some career advice from our speakers here today. So এখন আমি একটু সিনিয়র থেকে শুরু করব। সেলিনা আপা, আপনার কাছে আমি আবার আসছি, যেহেতু as a hiring manager, because that's, I think, what's on top of everyone's mind at the moment. As a hiring manager who regularly works with early career researchers, what kind of skills, experiences, or qualities do you think stands out when you look for fresh graduates? And এই স্কিলগুলো তারা যদি বিল্ড করতে, মানে ভবিষ্যতে তারা যদি ক্যারিয়ারে থাকতে চায়, তাহলে তাদের কি কি স্কিল বিল্ডিং করতে হবে? You've already answered a bit in your answer, but if you have any other insights to add to this.
So skillটা is, I wouldn't say only skill matters. So it's a combination of যেটা আমরা বলি যে skill and attitude. So BIGD তে যখন আমরা গভর্নেন্স এন্ড পলিটিক্স এ কাজ করি, যেমন তাহরিমা করছে, ইন্তেমাম করছে, I think even though they had this rigorous screening process, but যখন আমরা we started working with them, we at the same time we got like lots of like these people stand out because I think একটা হচ্ছে তো it's about their training, so they already knew কোন যে সাবজেক্টটাতে ওরা কাজ করতে চায়, they had this background, but that's like only additional advantage, the I think যেটা আমি আগেও বললাম, linking it with my previous year, যে I think it really matters that whether you are willing to build a career in this field, if you are willing to work hard, if you are willing to read up, কারণ এটা মানে যখন আমরা কাজ করি, ওই যে বললাম কিছু কাজ হচ্ছে খুবই বোরিং মানডেইন ওয়ার্ক, ইউ হ্যাভ টু রিড আপ, ইউ রিয়েলি হ্যাভ টু বি গুড ইন, যখন আমরা লিখছি, হ্যাঁ, ধরো চিন্তা করে লেখা, আই থিঙ্ক রাইটিং ইজ অ্যাবসলিউট নেসেসারি ফর আমাদের ক্লাসের কাজ, যারা আমরা কোয়ালিটেটিভ কাজ করি, আই থিঙ্ক আমাদের মেজর স্ট্রেংথই হইতে হয় রাইটিং এ, ইউ হ্যাভ টু বি, যেটার জন্য আমরা যখন অ্যাসেস করি, রাইটিং ইজ আ অ্যাসেসমেন্টের দিক থেকে আই এম শিওর তুমি এটাতে পরে আবার আসবা, কিন্তু রাইটিং উড বি একটা অ্যাবসলিউটলি নেসেসারি জিনিস আমাদের ক্লাসে কাজ করার জন্য, ইউ হ্যাভ টু বি গুড এট রাইটিং। কিছু স্কিলস যেটা আসে যেগুলা হচ্ছে অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমরা উই হেল্প পিপল টু বিল্ড, যেগুলো হচ্ছে অ্যানালিটিক্যাল অ্যাবিলিটি, যেগুলো সফটওয়্যার স্কিলস, যেগুলাতে ইউ হ্যাভ টু নো যে কিভাবে কোড করতে হয়, কিভাবে ইন্টারপ্রেট করতে হয় সেটা। আর আমার জন্য মোস্ট ইম্পর্টেন্ট হচ্ছে যে বিং এবল টু ওয়ার্ক ইন দ্য ফিল্ড, কারণ উই আর এ ফিল্ড রিসার্চ ইনস্টিটিউট, এবং গভর্নেন্স এন্ড পলিটিক্স এর যা রিসার্চ আমরা করি বেশিরভাগই হচ্ছে ফিল্ড থেকে ডেটা কালেক্ট করা, সো ইউ হ্যাভ টু বি উইলিং অ্যান্ড বি এবল টু কমিউনিকেট সাধারণ মানুষের সাথে ফিল্ডে, ইউ শুড বি এবল টু আস্ক কোয়েশ্চেন, প্রোব, ফিল্ডের র্যাপো বিল্ড করা, এই ধরনের স্কিল গুলো আই থিঙ্ক উইল বি অ্যাবসলিউটলি নেসেসারি আমাদের ক্লাসের কাজের জন্য। বাট আমি বেশি সময় নিব না, আই থিঙ্ক আদার্স ক্যান অ্যাড যারা অ্যাকচুয়ালি কাজ করছে।
Right. So I'm actually going to open the floor to both Inteemum and Tahrima if you want to add to this. যারা এই স্কিলটা ডেভেলপ করতে চায়, what are some practical steps they can start? Because I understand that the advantage that both of you had is that you had some academic training, but a lot of people don't necessarily have that academic training from their universities. So if you have any advice on how they can start building these skills. হ্যাঁ, Inteemum, please.
Yeah, I would love to go actually. কারণ আমি যখন বিএইচডি তে আসলাম, one of the first questions that I was asking my interview was তুমি কি মানে ফিল্ডে কাজ করতে পারবে নাকি? তো আমি একটু I was a little bit thrown off, কারণ আমি যখন থিসিস করেছিলাম আমি তখন ফিল্ড ওয়ার্কটা খুব মানে it's very vague, মানে I had contacts, তাদের সাথে কথা বলছিলাম, I didn't have to just go into the field random একটা বাজারে গিয়ে গল্প করতে হচ্ছিল না। তো পরে ইভেন দো আই ওয়াজ থ্রোন অফ আ লিটল বিট, আমি তখন চিন্তা করলাম যে আসলে ওইটার জন্য যে অ্যাকচুয়াল স্কিলটা লাগে, হয়তো আমি ওটাকে ফিল্ড ওয়ার্ক বলি না, বাট আমরা ওই চা খাইতে গিয়ে যে মামাদের সাথে আলাপ করি বা মানে রিক্সায় চড়ার সময় একটু গল্প করি বা র্যান্ডম মানুষের সাথে কানেকশন বিল্ড করি, জাস্ট বিইং কাইন্ড অফ লিটল বিট এক্সট্রোভার্টেড in a sense, just open to talking about anything, really picking up a conversation at a tea stall, that kind of skill, like everyday field skill, মানে ওইটা খুব কাজে দেয় আমরা যখন ফিল করতে যাই, কারণ হঠাৎ করে একটা এফজিডি অ্যারেঞ্জ করতে হচ্ছে, you go to a tea stall and you kind of pick up where the conversation is, and then you get them interested, and then you get them into your conversation. So I think kind of really, if you want to get into this field and you want to do well in the field, then I think starting to get out of your comfort zone, just speak to random people, that really does help. A week of speaking to your chala mama will help.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's important. Actually, what Inteemum said, it's important to, okay, so not everyone is an extrovert, so it's, I think, maybe not fair to be like, but the idea is that you have that kind of that implicit way of connecting with people, right? So you don't have to be super extroverted and super outgoing or outward presenting, but you have to have that ability to relate to someone on their level. So the way that Inteemum has said it is right, that if you talk to your chawala mama, your rickshawala, your food seller, your whatever, what this does is, this is the thing I'm talking about. This is street smarts, right? And then the way to get better at writing is to write. Write 200 words, really honestly practical advice for writing and reading. Write 200 words every day, pick up a book, read 10 pages every day. And it doesn't even have to be a textbook. It doesn't have to be a political science textbook. Rather, it's honestly better if it's not a political science textbook, if it's a contemporary, like a politics book or just a book, that's nonfiction, tells you something about the world that you didn't know, gives you a perspective that you didn't know, because that's what it's all about. So those are the two. The third thing is that it's very overwhelming. I understand that when you especially if you don't have a background in political science or any kind of a social science, if you're coming from a science background or even an economics background, of where do you start? I would say if you have a specific kind of any question in your mind that is very niche, that I wonder, যেমন মাইগ্রেশনের সাথে political behavior কোনো correlation আছে কিনা, or something geopolitical of what's happening in the world right now, like what leads to what, causation question. A great way to identify current state of the art research is to actually visit websites from research conferences like American Political Science Association is a good one. That's APSA. Midwest Political Science Association is another good one, which is an MPSA. So what they do is they have yearly annual conferences on political science, and people come from all over the world presenting their paper. So this is the most current state of the art questions that people are dealing with. And for the most part, last year's panel discussions papers are going to be accessible through their website. So the APSA and the MPSA website, if you go there, you go to the conferences. Last year's conference, so this is 2026. I don't think these usually happen in the summer or in the spring, so they probably haven't happened yet for this year. So you will have access to 2025 conferences. So what this will do is, first you will understand kind of this. I'm assuming you don't have a political science background or a governance background. Then you kind of understand what are the disaggregations of topics. So comparative politics, Asian politics, European politics, IR, how do they differ? Political behavior মধ্যে মানুষ কি জিনিস নিয়ে রিসার্চ করছে এখন, what are the questions people are asking? That's a good starting point. So you read those. So that's the snowball effect of reading, is the more you read, the more you learn, and the more you will find that, okay, there's more to read. This is how you develop that kind of that reading and writing skill that will help you to become a researcher. So that's more what Inteemum said, and what we started with is more on the streets, bringing in the data methodological skills, and then you develop your skills when you become like a true researcher. So you're able to interpret what you're bringing from the field and write and kind of also relate it to other writings, right? So you cite other writings too. So other people have said this is what I have found, and this is my analysis. So that is how I would that's kind of the progression of skill development.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, both Tahrima and Inteemum, for those very, very practical points. I've mentioned the two websites that Tahrima mentioned on the chat box. Feel free to explore those. And I have another question. This is also an open question, mainly again to Tahrima and Inteemum. As someone, both of you have joined, I would say, the field a bit recently. So what does your day-to-day look like as a researcher? So একদম honestly আপনাদের day-to-day কেমন যাচ্ছে, and আপনাদের যে expectationটা ছিল when you first thought that, you know what, I want to be a researcher. Has this role met your expectations or not?
Inteemum, do you want to go first?
Tahrima bolo, openly bolo. I want to.
No, but I don't have complaints. I really don't have. I think Inteemum is frozen. Okay, I don't have complaints. Okay, so when I first started really becoming interested in political science research, this was, for me, I'm an early bloomer in research. This was second year of university. তখন হচ্ছে কোটা আন্দোলন just had wrapped up. I was already doing research on Kota Andolon and movements in general, mobilizations in general. So I discovered early on that research is actually a lot of drudgery. So it's a lot of grunt work, which is like you do mundane things over and over again. It's data entry over and over and over again, especially if you are alone, you don't have a team. So at BIGD, we are a cluster. So there's 10 people. We're all working on overlapping projects. So there are projects, there are compartmentalizations of who is doing what, but because it's political science, everything is a little bit correlated, and each person's research feeds the other person's research. So your analysis will likely feed someone else's analysis. So we have to also share insights, right? So to answer your question, my day-to-day is not against expectation. I already expected that. Look, research is, like Salina said before, it's not easy. Okay? If it were easy, I think that we would have a much more crowded Zoom meeting today, right? So you don't really have hours, not regular, not every day at work. It's not like our routine night, but if let's say recently we have wrapped up the field aspect of a voting behavior research. So this is about how do Bangladeshi voters, a general Bangladeshi voter, make a decision on who are they going to vote for? You know, is it depending on, do they like the candidate? What is the candidate characteristic that they relate to? Is it the campaign that they're listening to campaign promises, or are they just dependent on party loyalty? Like, this is the party that their parents supported, that they support, that their children will support, and they're not going to move from it. And if they don't move from it, what is the reason? What's the reason behind party loyalty? Is the party doing something to foster these loyal voters, right? So what did we have to do for this research? 2 months before the elections, this was because if you want to see voting behavior, so you have to see it before the elections. So how are people behaving when they interact with campaigns? So we had a very short window to do this research. This was January when campaigning started. And we had to I think we took 800 interviews, right? So 800 interviews in a month across 10 different research sites. And I'm not saying this to scare anyone. To me, this is exciting. To me, this is something that I've always wanted to do. To me, this is when I started doing research, I was just copying data from newspaper and using it to build a data set. But now I have a team and I have resources to reach places where I was not able to reach before. So to me, this is exciting. I enjoy it, but it doesn't mean it's easy. So it's very difficult. So 800 interviews, 10 research sites. We had like 26 people who were doing direct field work for 2 months straight. So when you have something like this, something time sensitive, a lot of people, you said that you're interested in kind of current research topics that are trending right now. So something about electoral politics, building institutions in Bangladesh. What does that look like? Rebuilding democracy in a non-democratic country. So time-sensitive research like this, you have to assume that sometimes you don't have a routine. Sometimes you have to give up your weekend and go to community to bring data. But what it is that it should be, that's why what Salina said, that you should want to do this. If you want to do it, if you're interested and you're genuinely passionate, it's not going to feel like such a sacrifice, because it's really not. It's to me, it's very fulfilling. To me, it's when I see that, so I spent a week somewhere and I come back and I have that data in relation to other data and it's giving me something that I didn't know before. To me, that's very fulfilling, right? And I know that to Inteemum, that's the same, and to Salina very much so, because she has completely abandoned economics and moved to political science, which I think is amazing. I love that. So that's what it is. That's how everyday research can be for a career researcher. For us at BIGD, like I said, we have multiple projects ongoing at a time. Usually they have some kind of overlapping components. So we have people who are at the same time concurrently, maybe a team is doing literature review, a team is doing kind of field coordination, a team is already on the field, bringing in the field data. There are people helping us to coordinate everything. There are people across the organization, like Zarine, like Zarif, who help us with the comms, who help us publish the data to reach people like you guys who are currently in the Zoom call. So it is a whole machine that works to help you learn by doing the research, right? So the best way to learn is to start doing it, and BIGD fosters that, and I think Governance Cluster, of course, very much fosters that, because it's very hands-on. It's very much, you have to go and get your hands on the field, and talk to the people, and bring the data in. So that's what a regular day at BIGD will look like if you come in.
Thank you so much, Tahrima. I think you painted a very clear picture of life as a researcher. It's not easy. So, Jara, খুব excited. We don't want to scare you, but I feel like you need to be genuinely passionate about, what you're getting into, of course, and be genuinely passionate about the subject. Inteemum, we are running a bit short on time, so I still want to give you the floor in case you want to add anything to what Tahrima has already mentioned.
Yeah, sure. I'll just go over like what I do on a day-to-day basis. So, Tahrima যেগুলা বললো, ওগুলা very real. That is the gist of what we do. But when I go to my desk at 8:30 and when I leave at 5, between that time, the things I'm doing are kind of I'm juggling a bunch of projects at once. So, একটা projectর জন্য currently we're writing a report. আরেকটা projectর জন্য we are kind of managing, organizing our data, and then putting it into Envivo, coding it, thematically analyzing things, taking notes on what we would write when the report time comes. And then there's a bit of project management work. So, like who's doing what? Are the transcriptions coming in time? Are the transcriptions going out in time? Are the fieldwork data coming in time? So, a জিনিসগুলা, and then, when it's time for fieldwork, we're all going to the field. And that's one of the most exciting things that we do at BIGD. So, yeah, it's a lot of everything. But I think just one thing I want to add here is that when I was in college doing research, I learned how to like read and write. When I came to BIGD, I learned how to like work. And BIGD fosters that like really nice work environment where you want to learn how to manage 3 different projects at once, where you learn how to go to the field for 3 days and then come back and submit a report. So it is intense, but it's lovely if you like this stuff.
Thank you so much. Hopefully that.
আমি একটা পয়েন্ট জাস্ট অ্যাড করতে চাই।
Yes.
So I think যেটা Inteemum and Tahrima both wanted to say, that research is more than doing research, more than collecting data, more than writing. It's also about research management. So আমাদের যদি আমরা দেখি, আমি বলবো it's 60-40. So even if you are 60% time you are analyzing data, you are writing, 40% you spend on absolutely mundane bureaucratic procedures about how you manage the data, how you report একটা করো donor কে, how you make sure that আমার কোনো ডেডলাইন মিস না হয়ে যায়, and then there are internal accountability process, এগুলা করা, কাউকে কন্ট্রাক্ট আউট করা, যে এই কাজটা দিচ্ছি সেটার জন্য যে ব্যুরোক্রেসি সেগুলো ডিল করা। সো ইটস নট এট অল একটা এলিট জব, ইটস আ ভেরি কেটে খাওয়া, মানে হাতে লাগায় কাজ করার মতো জব। সো কারোর যদি এই আইডিয়া থাকে যে I'll be sitting on a desk, I'll be just data crunch করবো and will producing fancy reports or journal article, that's not it. That's আমরা একেবারেই খেটে খাওয়া মানুষ।
About KPK journal article, you do have to give some incentive. Of course, we publish journal articles as well. So we're not just doing.
এটা একটা কোয়েশ্চেন, অনেক ফ্রিকোয়েন্টলি আস্ক কোয়েশ্চেন, যে জার্নালে কিভাবে পাবলিশ করতে হয়। এটা আই থিঙ্ক আজকে কভার করা যাবে না, রিকোয়ার ডিফারেন্ট সেশন অল টুগেদার। বাট আই থিঙ্ক দিস especially for those of you, many of you who are interested in entering and applying for the GPRF program, অনেকে আসলে হয় কি একটা ডিফারেন্ট সেট অফ এক্সপেকটেশনস নিয়ে অ্যাপ্লাই করে। ওরা যেটা আপা বললেন আর কি, যে আমি খালি ডেস্কের মধ্যে বসে ডেটা ক্রাঞ্চিং করবো, অল অফ দ্যাট, দুই মাসের মধ্যে আমার একটা জার্নাল আর্টিকেল হয়ে যাবে। ইটস নট দ্যাট ইজি। অনেক সময় অনেক শ্রম দিতে হয়, এবং অনেক বিউরোক্রেটিক তো বটেই, মানে খুবই আমি এটাই বলবো যে দের ইজ নো স্মল টাস্ক, মানে সবকিছুই আসলে সবারই করতে হবে। আপনার হয়তো মনে হতো এই কাজটাও আমার করতে হবে, বাট অ্যাকচুয়ালি এটা সবারই করতে হয়, ছোট বড় সবারই হচ্ছে কি গ্রান্ট ওয়ার্ক গুলো করতেই হবে। সো জাস্ট কাইন্ড অফ কিপিং দ্যাট ওপেন মাইন্ড, I think is the biggest takeaway from this part of our discussion. So I think আমাদের যেহেতু around 15 minutes এর মতো বাকি আছে, আমরা এখন আমাদের মূল আকর্ষণ বলবো না, but one of the most exciting parts of today's discussion, which is the upcoming GPRF program, which is a structured pathway that BIGT is offering for young researchers who are interested in entering this field of research. So Salina, if you want to kind of give a quick introduction to the GPRF program, and if you could also mention how it is different from our existing Young Researchers Fellowship program.
I wouldn't say it's different from our existing YRF program, because বেশ কয়েক বছর আগে থেকে তো BIGD তে এন্ট্রি লেভেল রিসার্চারদেরকে আমরা নিচ্ছি থ্রু আওয়ার YRF প্রোগ্রাম, যেটাতে আমরা বাছাই করে পরীক্ষার মাধ্যমে স্টুডেন্ট নিচ্ছি যারা অ্যাকচুয়ালি রিসেন্টলি গ্রাজুয়েট বা কোথাও কাজ করেছে, এবং তাদেরকে আমরা ফর ফিউ মান্থস আমরা একটা রিগোরাস এর ভেতর দিয়ে যাই, সেইভাবেই আমরা রিক্রুট করি এদের মধ্যে কিছু। তো এইবারে একটা ডিফারেন্ট ইন আ সেন্স বিকজ এই ওয়াইআরএফটা আমরা অন্যান্যবার আমরা ওয়াইআরএফ করি মিক্সড, আমরা মেথোডোলজিক্যাল এতে বেশি ফোকাস করি। সো ইটস আইদার কোয়ান্টিটেটিভ ওয়াইআরএফ অর কোয়ালিটেটিভ ওয়াইআরএফ। আই থিঙ্ক এইবার আমাদের মেথোডোলজি থেকে বের হয়ে আমরা এবার ডিসিপ্লিনে ফোকাস করছি। সো এইবারের যে ওয়াইআরএফটা ইটস এন্টায়ারলি ডিজাইনড, particularly designed for governance and politics clusters. So we want people যারা actually can come from several, say economics থেকে হতে পারে, ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং থেকে হতে পারে, ডিফারেন্ট ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ডের হতে পারে, বাট একটা কমন জায়গা যেটা যে হচ্ছে যে গভর্নেন্স এন্ড পলিটিক্স এর রিসার্চ ক্যারিয়ার করতে চায়। সো জিপিআরএফ আগের ওয়াইআরএফ থেকে একমাত্র এটাই মানে ডিফারেন্স, যে ইউ ক্যান, ইটস নট মেথোডোলজিক্যাল, ইটস অ্যাবাউট মোর ইউর ইন্টারেস্ট এন্ড ইউর আই থিঙ্ক পলিটিক্স এ কাজ করা নিয়ে। সো হ্যাঁ।
Thank you so much, Appa. I'll ask Tahrima at this stage, if you can share kind of what the recruitment process is going to look like, when the deadline is, and any other details you want to share for interested applicants.
Okay, so as Appa said, this is going to be a bit more discipline focused. So just before the assessment part, I want to emphasize on this that we will have methodological classes as well. So the way that YRF and GPRF, the way these fellowship programs work is that you have kind of conceptual lectures for learning concepts, methodologies, different things, Stata, NVivo for quantitative and qualitative coding. But a component that we're adding to GPRF is that we're going to have conceptual classes on political science topics. So basic political theory, political sociology, political economics, as well as governance and kind of governance and development, and how do they intersect, those kind of topics. So on top of all of this, you're going to have full field immersion. So as part of the research fellowship, you will spend some time in the field with us. Of course, we're not just going to send you to the field. It will be, it's very structured the way we've planned it. So the way we want to assess people who are going to be who are interested in GPRF and giving the exams is that, like, I think we've all emphasized this whole time that we really want to make sure that the people who are coming into the GPRF program are, by and far, the most importantly, they're interested and they really just are ready to do this research, right? So to kind of assess that, it's difficult, but we want to have at least 2 or 3 levels of assessment. The first will be a basic kind of like an MCQ assessment to assess logical skills, so analytical ability, your basic general knowledge, and very, very basic maths. So whenever I say maths, I know that people who are in maybe the governance sector or who have maybe a social science or arts background, they might become apprehensive, but I want to assure you it's very basic. It's not super difficult, high level mathematics that we're not going to ask you to do calculus in an entry exam. Right? So that's one. And then second is another important, which is that the writing assessment. Like Appa said at the top of this meeting that we want to make sure that you know how to write. And what that means is that you know how to present an argument. So you are aware of what is a logical thinking. Are you able to present something in a logical way, and you make your argument and you present it with evidence, and you're able to close it down in a way that makes logical sense. So that is what we're testing for the writing test, and we want to keep some conceptual elements to it, but not too specific, so that, you know, if you don't have an arts background or a political science background, that you wouldn't know. We're not going to ask for definitions or super specific things like that. So MCQ and then written, and we have the interviews, but we might be doing something a bit more field focused this time around for GPRF, because for governance research in particular, like we've said this whole time, that look, it's more, surveys are really much easier to do. So like Inteemum actually said that when he did his thesis, he did surveys and they were relatively easier because he could just snowball it into more respondents. But when you're doing qualitative research, I know it's perceived as relatively easier than quantitative research to people who are maybe not as savvy in quantitative methods. but it's actually a lot more work in qualitative research. So you need a lot more evidence to support your arguments, especially if you're working with donors, if you're working with people who are depending on that for policy recommendations. So the thing about real life research is that it's not just a thesis, it's not just an exam, it's going into impact something, right? So we need to make sure that you're ready to do that field part of what requires to do qualitative governance research. So we're going to have some kind of a test on this. We might hold it outside of Dhaka. We haven't made a final decision yet, but there might be a component that is more of a field emergent component. But we want to ensure and assure people that even if we do that, we have in mind that is a big ask for a recruitment exam. So we will facilitate as much as we possibly can to make sure that those who have come through the MCQ and the writing process and have made it to that shortlist are able to join us in a field immersion test, so that we can really see how they behave and perform in the field. And then we will make final selections. We're hoping that, so the application deadlines are March 31st, end of March. Again, application deadlines, March 31st. And then we're going to have the initial tests. So the MCQ and the written will definitely take place in April, maybe second or third quarter. And then we will move on to the field tests in May. And hopefully by June, we're off to the races. We can start the fellowship.
Thank you so much for just describing the overall structure of the program itself and what the recruitment process and timeline is like. The link to the program is mentioned in the chat box. সেখানে আসলে আমাদের এই যে 4 মাসের যে ফেলোশিপ অপরচুনিটিটা, এটা নিয়ে যদি আমি একটু শর্ট করে বলি, আমাদের YRF and GPRF এর মডেলটা হচ্ছে এরকম। আমরা এন্ট্রি লেভেল কাইন্ড অফ গ্র্যাজুয়েটসদের নিয়ে কাজ করি। আমরা 4 মাস তাদেরকে একটা এক্সটেন্সিভ কাইন্ড অফ ইমার্সিভ ট্রেনিং অ্যান্ড অপরচুনিটি টু ওয়ার্ক with BIGD আমরা প্রদান করে থাকি। সো এই ট্রেনিংটাতে ইউ গেট টু আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড a lot about অ্যাপ্লাইড রিসার্চ মেথডস, ফিল্ডে কিভাবে কি করতে হয়। মোটামুটি এটা একটা এক্সটেন্ডেড কাইন্ড অফ ট্রেনিং পিরিয়ড আমি বলবো। And during that time you will be attached to different clusters. In this particular case you will be attached mainly to the governance and politics cluster. YRF এ সাধারণত আমাদের যে ডিফারেন্ট ক্লাস্টার গুলো থাকে সেখানে এক একজন অ্যাটাচমেন্টে থাকে। So as during your 4-month attachment you will get to kind of have an experiential learning opportunity. At the end of the 4 months we'll actually go through kind of a testing process, and we'll see if we can retain some of these GPRF or YRF candidates to provide them an opportunity to work with BIGD as a full-time research associate. So সেটাও আমাদের একটা ছোট একটা সিলেকশন প্রসেসের মতো হয়, but at the end of the 4 months you get the opportunity to work at BIGD as a full-time research associate as well. So this is a fantastic opportunity for learning. Even if you don't make it in the final selection after 4 months, it's still a fantastic kind of experience to add in your resume and a fantastic training opportunity, which I don't think it's offered anywhere else in the country at the moment, a program design of this sort. So yeah, deadline is on 31st March, and we'll now open the floor for questions. আমাদের সাথে এখনো 65 পার্টিসিপেন্টস আছেন, সো উই ডোন্ট হ্যাভ আ লট অফ টাইম। আমরা একটু সবাইকে রিকোয়েস্ট করে 5 মিনিট এক্সট্রা সময় নিতে পারি if we have a lot of questions, but we'll do a hard close by 9:05 p.m. So if you have any questions, please drop them on the comment box or the Envisioneers chat box. And also you can raise your hand. I already see a question: can undergraduate students in their final semester apply? Tahrima, if you want to take that question.
Okay, so the easy one is undergraduate students in their final semester indeed can apply. I think for YRF also we take undergrads who are just about to graduate. But really final semester that you are going to graduate, because GPRF, YRF, they're full-time commitments, so you have to spend full-time at office. So you spend time with us, you go to the field with us, it's super immersive. So you have to consider that this is a job. So if you're a current student, we really discourage you to apply, and we have this program coming up every year, and you can just apply when you are ready and you have graduated. Another question is that second year of bachelor's in political science, our department doesn't have a thesis in bachelor's, which is a downside. How do I overcome this and utilize my remaining time? So the way to do it is, I mean, if you don't have a thesis, you must have some form of an alternative. So I assume that there might be a monograph, and if not, and because the pro is, maybe this is a con that you don't have a thesis, but the pro is that you are in political science. So you are studying all the concepts and all the topics that we are going to be teaching in GPRF as well. So the way to do it is to really take your studies seriously. Like I said at the top of the meeting, there are no shortcuts. Take the things that you do. So maybe you write a paper for a midterm or something, for an assignment, and you really think that this has some potential, that this is very interesting. Your goal has to be that you are going to publish this at some point. And even if you can't publish it in the end, you can present it somewhere. Right, you can present it. BIGD also holds conferences, annual conferences at our offices, but also you can present it at international conferences. So take your studies seriously and really focus on what you're doing, and it will be okay. Even if you don't get to do a thesis, you will still have a career in political science, I'm sure. Okay, so I'm going to go through these quickly. Do you have any accommodations for disabled, chronically ill individuals? I think Zarine is more suited to answer this.
I think I can answer this very quickly. So আমরা আসলে এটা completely depend করে case by case basis আমরা situationটা assess করি. So we will check in if we have any আমাদের মাঠ কেন্দ্রতে we do have and in our building Brack Tower যে অফিসটা সেখানে we do have it's completely disability friendly, but of course any other accommodations that are necessary we will try our best to accommodate that as per the support that you may need, but so it will be kind of on a case to case basis.
Oh, okay, so very quickly, because we have so many questions now, 4 or 5 years with my ongoing master's and 4 or 5 years of political background. Okay, so if you have visual storytelling and communications in your background and you still want to do political science or governance work, we would expect your SOP to reflect why are you wanting to move, because it is your decision. How do you want to contribute, right? If you are coming here, then you would best know how to answer that. So I think it doesn't have to be like, oh, I did politics research and now I'm going to do GPRF, but you have to, again, this is the skill of relating your experiences to something that you want to do here. I don't know how to code in a professional way. Is it a con? It's not a con. We will teach you how to code qualitative on NVivo and some basics of Stata as well, quantitative coding. And if you don't know professionally yet, you will learn on the way, you will learn on the job. And that's the attitude you need to have. And if you are really interested, then you can start learning right away. And there are no shortage of resources, especially now with something like Claude Code can also teach you coding, which is an AI coding model. So there are no shortage of resources. Use your time to learn something new. Now, primary motivation for launching separate fellowship program. For YRF, like we said, YRF is more methodological and GPRF is more discipline based. And we feel that because there are so many people here currently joining us in the meeting as well, there are a lot of people who may be wanting to switch disciplines and they don't know how to. And this discipline we think is kind of under trained in a professional way, because the way you are taught at school is very different than what we do in the field. So we think that we are going to fill that gap. Eligibility criteria requires applicants to be under 30. Is there any flexibility to the age limit? Zainapu, maybe you can, maybe not. Salina by saying no. So
Salina, I think no, right? I think we can't be flexible with the age limit.
Yeah,
I think we set it under 30, but যদি exceptional candidates থাকে, we can do some research. আমি এর মধ্যে একটা দুটো রিকোয়েস্ট পেয়েছি, exceptionally good. They wanted to apply, they emailed to us personally. So if you are really interested and slightly above 30, please send. Tomar SOP should reflect that if you are really interested to pursue this career, we can make some adjustments.
Right. Unfortunately, candidates outside of Dhaka cannot participate. If you're moving to Dhaka for 4 months for the fellowship, if you're willing to do that, I would encourage you to apply, but it is a full-time, our offices are in Dhaka, so you would have to be in Dhaka, unfortunately. Does the fellowship help you get scholarships? Again, it depends on you, right? Of course, the fellowship is, I think, a very good opportunity. So it will teach you practical research skills, conceptual skills, methodological skills. And now that it depends on you, how do you present that to your scholarship provider, and if they pick you based on that. Could you share a recording of this session, please? I think this session is being recorded and it will be shared. Governance and cluster exclusively with qualitative methods. No, we do make mixed methods as well. We're not just focused on qualitative methods. The reason why we are focused on qualitative methods for this program is because we want to dispel the myths that political science qualitative methods, governance qualitative methods are easy. They're not, and they require a lot more effort than you would think. So that's why we're doing this. Will there be any selection process? The 4 months fellowship after the registration? Will there be any selection process for the 4 months fellowship after the registration? After the application deadline is.
I think the question is programta shesh
Yeah.
korar for selection hobe kina. So to answer your question, yes, after you complete the 4-month fellowship, there will be another assessment. Jetar pore, if you pass that assessment, you will be offered a role as a full-time research associate at BIGT.
Right. So there is an opportunity. So not everyone will be selected, but based on your performance and how well you do and how passionate you are, how invested, how committed you are, we will make selections. What would be the format of the SOP? I would say, I think that is a very easy question to answer. And okay, so I'm going to go into a rant now. This is disappointing, right? Like I said, top of this meeting, there are no shortcuts, right? You want to know how to write a statement of purpose. You can Google how to write a statement of purpose. There are so many resources. It's very, very unfair we are at now 9:01 to ask this and to, make me spend a minute of my time to answer this question. It sounds so harsh, but I think I'm right here. I have a question about the SOP. They stated that it's brief. How brief should it be? Rule of thumb, an SOP should not extend over 2 pages. 1.5 page, I think it's ideal. 1 page is really ideal for something like a GPRF. It's not a PhD program or a scholarship program. So for GPRF, I think 1 page really ideal. 1.5 page we will consider. Don't make 5 pages or 9 pages of SOPs. Is there any chance of considering a CGPA requirement like below 3 if I have research experience? If you think that that you have research experience and you fit the role, I would encourage you to apply. CGPA is really not something we super focus on. It's not a criteria that we are only picking those with the highest CGPA. We don't believe in that. So if you have experience and you can reflect that in your SOP, we will consider. I would encourage you to apply. Will there be any selection process for the 4 months after? Yes, there will be. What kind of package or benefits are offered for the candidates to motivate them during your 4-month traineeship period? So there is an honorarium system, which will be according to our company policies. We are not asking you to do this for free. So that is the motivation. Second, what should an ideal CV look like? And the chances of being shortlisted. To be specific, currently have several quantitative research papers under peer review and the business field. Would mentioning these people add value to the CV? So what an ideal CV should look like, again, is an easy question to answer for yourself. And I will let you have the discretion to see what your ideal CV would look like, A. And B, I think we should caution this, Appa. Jay, if you're really overqualified, right? I think it's clear from what we've talked about in the last hour that we are looking for people who are entry level, who have just graduated, or who have just a bit of experience in research, who are trying to learn, because this is a learning opportunity. If you already know how to write a research and your papers are under peer review, congratulations, that is excellent. But then you would be a bit overqualified for us, I think. And for yourself, for your own growth, we would discourage you to apply and to find a more fitting job role for yourself. And I think the last question here is...
I think the person who is asking if he is publishing already and on quantitative, specifically business field. So unless there is a strong reason that why would you want to apply at GPRF, governance and politics research, suddenly from business and very quant-heavy, background. খুব বেশি কোনো রিজন যদি না থাকে, I don't think you should apply here because you already have a career মানে set out, তাই না? ওখানে you don't
Exactly.
really
Exactly. So
next
that
question.
exactly. Okay, next question. Is there any written assessment after being shortlisted? If yes, would you please share how it will be taken, on which topics? So like I said, there will be a written assessment, there will be an MCQ assessment, and then a written one. For the written one, there will be we want you, I won't say what kind of question will there be because I don't think we know yet, but the idea is that you are able to present an argument logically. So you are able to write like a researcher, you know how to make an argument and to bring it to a satisfactory conclusion in a logical sequence that makes sense, that you are able to use evidence to support your opinions and your statements. If you are able to show this, then you will be selected for the written exams. Will you recruit for an Erasmus scholar? Again, might be overqualified. Be just a bit overqualified. You can apply and we will see. But I think if you're an Erasmus scholar, you might have better job opportunities based on your level of education. On Tarima's first answer, being a final semester student whose classes won't end by the time a fellowship starts, when would it be a probable timeline to apply for the next session? Also, what can you gain from participating in the application process? Yeah, of course, you can apply and participate in the application process if you think that this is something that will add to your skill sets. But if you have full-time classes, we really discourage it because you will have full-time work, and it is like Zarine has said, Salina has said, it's not easy. It is full-time and it is fully immersive. You will be working with other full-time researchers. It is their job to do research. We have ongoing research. We have deadlines that we need to fill. We have accountability to other clusters at our work, to our donors. So this is very serious, and we want you to take this seriously, right? So if you're a student, every year there is a YRF intake at BIGD. So I'm sure next spring you can apply for YRF again. As a follow-up over the overqualified thread, does BIGD offer open up a direct RA opportunities in this specific cluster? Appa, I think you are best to answer that.
আমি একটু বলতে পারি আই থিঙ্ক আপা এটা তো ডিপেন্ড করবে, মানে আসলে এক এক রিসার্চ প্রজেক্টের রিকোয়ারমেন্ট অনুযায়ী আমাদের অনেক সময় উই ডু ডাইরেক্টলি হায়ার আরএস আউটসাইড দ্য YRF and GPRF opportunity. সো আমাদের বিআইজিডি ওয়েবসাইটে ওয়ার্ক উইথ আস একটা সেকশন আছে, ওটা আপনারা সবসময় একটু চোখ রাখবেন। উই আর more or less there's always a vacancy, RA role, SRA role, PA role, SPA role, etc. So do keep an eye out. Actually, we have a data associate role vacancy as well going on at the moment. So also follow us on Facebook. You'll get plenty of opportunities there. Salina, if you have anything to add, and I think that'll be the last question we take because it's already 9:07 p.m.
I just wanted to add যে যখন overqualified বলছি, we don't discourage you to apply. So it's always a comparative যে কতগুলো অ্যাপ্লিকেশন আসছে তাদের উপর বেস করে আমরা shortlist করছি. So you are always encouraged to apply. Even if it seems overqualified, maybe we are getting like so many applications from overqualified people, and maybe আমরা shortlist করছি সবাইকে. So যখন আমরা বলছি overqualified, it seems overqualified, but we are not discouraging to apply. We'll shortlist and maybe shortlist এর ভিতরে আপনি চলে আসতে পারেন। আর আদার দেন দ্যাট আমাদের রেগুলার স্ট্রিমে আমরা প্রজেক্ট বেস রিক্রুট করি, যেগুলো ডিফারেন্ট প্রোগ্রামে, সেখানে রিসার্চ অ্যাসোসিয়েট আছে, সিনিয়র রিসার্চ অ্যাসোসিয়েট থাকে। So if you think you are fit, you can always apply আমাদের ওয়েবসাইটের থ্রুতে, সোশ্যাল মিডিয়া পেজে।
Thank you
সবাই
so
কিন্তু
much.
তোমার ওভার কোয়ালিফাইড নিয়ে খুবই কনসার্ন, সো I'm not sure. হ্যাঁ,
সবাই
I might have blundered over there. I'm so sorry. I apologize.
সবাই ওভার কোয়ালিফাইড হলে ওখানেও একটা কম্পিটিশন হয়ে যাবে। সো
of course, if we're getting so many overqualified people applying, আমাদের শর্টলিস্ট হয়তো ওইটার উপর বেস করেই করতে হবে, একটা ক্রাইটেরিয়া থাকবে যে we are getting more
সবাই তখন মানে সবাই ওভার কোয়ালিফাইড, মানে সবাই
আমি একটু এখানে করতে চাই।
Yes,
I think overqualified এর ব্যাপারটা, I mean we repeated a bunch of times, তাই এটা একটু মাথায় ঢুকে গেছে, but it's really not, মানে it's not to discourage you. ব্যাপারটা হচ্ছে যে মানে this program is kind of structured to introduce people who are new to research to enter research. That's all. Yeah.
হ্যাঁ,
So
এখানে জাস্ট
It's a
এইটাই যে
teaching program.
if you are very qualified, if you are already trained, so it can be a bit frustrating for you যে go through the same, say 101 level lecture again and again, doing the same thing you have done before as a part of your training. So ওই ক্ষেত্রে আমরা বলতে পারি যে এই জন্য ওভার কোয়ালিফাইড বলা হচ্ছে।
ওকে, আমাদের আজকের মতো আই থিঙ্ক আমরা ক্লোজ করতে পারি আমাদের ওয়েবিনারটা, and it was really engaging. I am really grateful to Salina আপা, Tahrima, Inteemum, আপনাদের very frank, open, honest kind of insights into your personal journey, as well as the kind of people we're looking to hire through the GPRF program, and an honest insight into what life is like as a governance and politics researcher. And I also really want to extend my appreciation to our participants today. I'm really happy to see that আমাদের almost consistently we had a very high participation rate from everyone, and so many questions. We're really grateful to you. Of course, আমাদের কাছে যদি আরো কোয়েশ্চেন থাকে, প্লিজ চেক দ্য ওয়েবসাইট। আমাদের ওখানে একটা কোয়েশ্চেন করার জন্য একটা লিংক, ইমেল অ্যাড্রেস আছে as well, so you can actually ask your questions in that email address. Also on our Facebook page, আমাদের comms team is always responding to different queries that are coming through from the applicants, so we'll be happy to answer your queries. Finally, আমাদের Envisioneers গ্রুপে কানেক্টেড থাকবেন, BIGD ফেসবুক পেজে কানেক্টেড থাকবেন। আমরা মোটামুটি কোয়ার্টারলি একটা ক্যারিয়ার টক্স এরকম একটা সেশন অর্গানাইজ করি। আজকের এপিসোডটা ছিল গভর্নেন্স এন্ড পলিটিক্স রিসার্চ নিয়ে, নেক্সটটাতে we may focus on some other topics. So what topics are you guys interested in? Please do comment so that we can, arrange a session for you guys that will be helpful for everyone. So with that, again, reiterating that this entire session was recorded and it will be published on our YouTube channel. So if you have missed anything, feel free to check out the recording. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. আমরা একটু overtime গেছি, but thank you for sticking through the entire time. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hope to see you in the
Thank you,
next
Zarine.
episode.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.